Hey everyone, how's it going? Good to see you. It's finally time, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. It is time for the debut episode of Backlog Brigade. Yes. For those of you guys who are tuning in for the very first time and you don't have a good idea of what this series is all about, 30 days or so back, I issued a challenge to not only the gaming community, but me, myself, and I. I don't know if you've looked at the calendar release for 2018, but it's looking freaking packed. There are so many games coming out this year that I am freaking excited for. But to be honest, even though there are a lot of games that I know I'm gonna pick up on day one, I feel kind of guilty at the fact that so many games are coming out this year, but I have a metric crap ton of games from 2017, 2016, 2015, 2014, and heck, even 2013, the start of this generation, that I have not completed. And while it's easy to chalk that up to me being an adult and I don't have all the time in the world to be spending on video games, I felt that was a really lame excuse considering this is a hobby that we spend a lot of money on. A shocker to anyone, gaming is one of the most expensive hobbies out there. And if you're gonna be spending all this money on games and buying all these special editions multiple times per year and not finishing your games, that honestly says more about you than all the games that are coming out in the year. So I decided to say, screw all those excuses. If you are gonna go out there and buy games on release or buy them on discount, whatever, you have got to earn the right to do that. And by that, I mean, you've got to start completing your video games, man. And here we are, man, 30 days later, and I can confidently say that I have adhered to the challenge. 1 month down out of the year, and it's just going strong, baby. We're gonna keep it going because something that I really do love, and I'll talk more about this later in the episode, is it's really gotten me back into focusing in and honing in on this hobby. Actually playing games with a purpose outside of just passing the time. Actually wanting to get the most out of the game. Especially considering that a lot of the times when we talk about video games, we're usually talking about news, we're talking about upcoming games, and we rarely talk about the games that we finish and our thoughts on said games. And it's really kind of jarring when you think about it, considering we get into this cycle, rinsing and repeating of all these games we're excited about, and we just don't finish them. In some cases, we'll be talking about games that were released in 2018, and then we won't finish them till 2022. Could you imagine that? If you bought a game in 2014 and you finally finished it in 2018, that is just insane. But you wanna know what's funny? You wanna know what's funny? I'm actually guilty of that. That is the best way for us to enter the debut episode of Backlog Brigade, by talking about the first game I completed this year, and that is of course Infamous Second Son. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, one of the, well, it wasn't really a launch title for the PlayStation 4, but it was one of the first games where you went, hey, finally, a game that I can own on the system. If I remember correctly, this released in March of 2014. That's actually when I picked up the PlayStation 4. And I was really excited about this because it's coming from not only one of my favorite developers, Sucker Punch Productions, but it's another game in a series that last generation ended up being one of my favorites. Infamous was everything that I ever could have wanted out of a modern superhero game. Now here's the thing, I'm such a big fan of comic books, as you guys all know, but being real, a lot of the games in the comic book medium are very hit or miss. In a lot of situations, they are crappy, low-budget movie titles. And it's very rarely that we do get a game such as a Batman Arkham Asylum. So when I found out that Sucker Punch's next title would be an open world superhero game, I was actually very interested, and man, it didn't disappoint, man. Just going from Infamous 1 to Infamous 2, and now we have Infamous Second Son. There's just something about this series that no matter what, it will have a very special place in my heart. For a lot of reasons, even when some of the entries in the franchise are not necessarily up to par with previous iterations, such as Infamous Second Son. But here's the thing, even though Infamous Second Son is not my favorite Infamous game, for numerous reasons which I'm going to get into, man, I am not going to sit here and lie to y'all. I'm not going to sit here and deny the amount of fun that I had in this game, because when I popped this game up, you know, almost 4 years of not playing it, I could not for the life of me figure out why I put this game down, because as it stands, this is one of the best open world games out on the market, just in not just talking about the stuff that you can do in the game from an open world standard, but just how fun it is just using all of these crazy powers and going and doing all these missions. This game has a lot of meat to it. It's very good, and the progression of leveling up your character and doing all those sort of things, you can definitely get a lot of replayability out of this one. However, even though it's got a lot of good things from a gameplay structure, the story, on the other hand, leaves a bit to be desired. Now, don't get it twisted. It's not bad. It's not the worst story. But it's just, I felt like it could have been handled a lot better. I love the aesthetics of it. I love that it was set in Seattle. I love the designs for the character. I love how modern it feels. But it just sucks that there's no substance behind these characters that can really make you go, wow, this is the complete package. Delsin Rowe is okay for what he is, but if I'm being real with y'all, I felt like I was just watching and playing another Troy Baker character. That's basically all it was, man. Same thing for his brother Reggie. Their relationship, their dynamic was what you expected considering the game. It doesn't go above and beyond to really break new ground and make these characters that you're going to remember 5-10 years down the road. I guess the best way I could describe Infamous Second Son is Infamous Second Serviceable or Serviceable Son, because that's all it is, man. It's good for what it is, but you're left wanting more, especially considering we've had previous games in the series that actually give you the complete package, such as Infamous 2. Oh, Infamous 2, man, oh my god. Just the amount of times that I went through that game just because I loved the character of Cole. Cole is just, okay. Cole is probably the realest character that I've ever played in a video game. Some people can say that he's boring and he doesn't have much to him, he's not too animated, but I just love Cole because there are people that I interact with on my day-to-day life who are just like Cole, who are not really fazed by anything, and it's just so funny. Delsin, on the other hand, is a lot more animated, he's a lot more millennial, if that makes sense, and it's good for what they're going for, but again, you're not really getting that much out of Delsin, so it's just kind of like, okay, you're alright. But I'm very pleased with the overall package of Infamous Second Son. It might not be the best game in the series, it might not be the best production from Sucker Punch, but it's definitely a great groundwork, a great stepping stone for the future of this franchise. And whether or not Sucker Punch wants to come back to this at some point or they want to hand it back to another developer, I definitely think that Infamous Second Son has laid the groundwork for a even better sequel. I would actually love to see what'll happen if they make an Infamous game and they actually prioritize the story and they actually prioritize the characters outside of just giving you the crazy powers. Now, I love the crazy powers as much as the next guy, but to be honest, when you're just doing the same missions over and over again just so you can get 100% completion and then move on to the next story mission, it leaves a lot to be desired. But fingers crossed this isn't the last Infamous game in the series, because it is kind of leaving off on a sort of sour note, especially a short sour note. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the shortest game in the franchise. I had, for the most part, 100% completion in under 15 hours, and that's not even counting all of the side missions that I skipped and ignored. So as far as time spent in this game, the main campaign you can complete in under 12 hours. It is that short. So yeah, I definitely see why a lot of people didn't get too much enjoyment out of this one, but as it stands, man, it's pretty dope. And the visuals on that game, bruh, 4 years later, it's outclassing so many games that are coming out now on the market. In addition to Infamous Second Son, this wasn't a game that I had on my backlog battle, but it was a game that is a companion to this. I decided to download Infamous First Light. This is a prequel, standalone expansion episode, if you will, starring one of the characters from Infamous Second Son, and that is Fetch. Fetch was a character who I actually thought was pretty cool. We didn't learn too much about her in Second Son, so the fact that she had her own little expansion piece was pretty cool. I'm working through it right now, and I'm actually having a lot of fun with it. I don't expect it to be longer than 5 hours, considering it is a download title. But from a story perspective, narrative-wise, I think it's a lot stronger than Infamous Second Son. So maybe they realized that when they were developing Infamous First Light, they were like, yeah, we should probably do a little bit better on the story side of things. But it's freaking cool. Now, moving on to the next game that I finished this month, well, the past month, January. It was a game that released in 2017, and I'm such a big fan of the franchise that this game is based off of. I've been watching it since I was a kid, which is, well, I would say it's wrong to do considering it's TVMA, but let's be real now, we've all been watching things as kids that we shouldn't have been watching, and I'm of course talking about South Park, The Fractured Butthole, the long-awaited sequel to South Park, The Stick of Truth, one of the surprise hits of 2014. Yeah, when was the last time that you actually saw a licensed video game based off of a TV series do well? Those are seriously a dime a dozen, but South Park, The Stick of Truth was a nice breath of fresh air in that perspective medium, and I was eagerly anticipating the sequel because I felt like even though South Park, The Stick of Truth was an all-around easy game, it was a game that was kind of meant for everyone. I wanted to see what they did with the sequel. More established audience, they understand what they're going for, but we actually learned a lot of things about this were going to be different than South Park, The Stick of Truth. In fact, a lot of the things, every single thing in this game is so different than its predecessor. First and foremost, it's a completely different game. It is not the same gameplay-wise, it's not the same in the way you do things, and it's got a different developer too. The last game was developed by Obsidian. You guys might know them for their recent fame with Fallout New Vegas and Wasteland 2. They developed South Park, The Stick of Truth. But this one was developed, I believe, by one of Ubisoft's proprietary studios. It doesn't even say it on the back, but yeah, it was developed in-house by them. And the combat system is more strategy focused as opposed to turn-based like the last title. The last title was more reminiscent of classic RPGs. This one is done on a grid-based system. It involves movement and it involves a lot of the quirks that you would see in strategy titles where you have to take account of things like environmental damage. You have to take account of spacing and the effects that that'll have with the enemies. You have to take account like how you're going to structure your character's moveset and what they're going to do. And certain characters right here you have to bring into battle because they are necessary for you to win the fight. There's a lot that went into this game from a strategy perspective that just dwarfs South Park, The Stick of Truth, and I honestly had so much more fun with this game for that very reason. Gameplay-wise, South Park, The Fractured Butthole is leagues better than South Park, The Stick of Truth. There's more fun to be had with this gameplay, there's more strategy involved with it, and I just loved getting into battles. Now, in terms of things that did remain from South Park, The Stick of Truth, the overworld is still the same for the most part, so you're going to be exploring a lot of the same areas. They have included some more contemporary areas based off the later seasons of South Park, so that is pretty cool. And if you love just the South Park lore and the dynamic between the characters, you can't go wrong with either game. However, while there's a lot of good things with South Park, The Fractured Butthole, to be honest, I say the story was the weakest part about it. The story, okay, I'll be real with y'all. Yeah, I'm getting kind of dry mouth, as you can see. I should have brought some water here. I did not prepare, but we are doing this all in one take because I am a lazy SOB. Y'all should know this right now. That's why you subscribed, right? I don't know. The story here was actually very excited for because while the first game was based more on classic RPGs like medieval and high fantasy, this one is based off of modern superheroes. Like one of the main things in this is Marvel versus DC. It's just the South Park variant of it, and it's about them building up their own movie universe. And if you are a nerd into those sort of things, you're gonna get so many laughs out of this because it's handled very well from a parody perspective. But the story itself is just kind of blech. It doesn't keep you interested, and to be honest, the South Park humor, for better or for worse, has kind of run its course. You either like it or you don't, and if you do like it, I feel it's more like begrudgingly for the sake of seeing what wacky antics that they get into right now. So from story perspective, I'd say that Stick of Truth kind of has more of the intrigue behind it, and the jokes are better in that one as opposed to this one. This one is just pushing the envelope for the sake of shock value, but again, it's South Park, so you know what you're getting into in that territory. In terms of some other things that are different here, while it is more of an RPG from the combat side of things, at the same time, it's different than Stick of Truth. Well, Stick of Truth, when you leveled up your character, you could level up their equipment and you could equip certain things that will give them better stats and boosts and all that stuff. Here it's done differently. Equipment really means nothing. It's more for cosmetic purposes than anything else. The way you level up your character is through these, I believe, these attribute strands that you equip onto them, and then from there it raises your might, and as your might increases you can take on higher level enemies and higher level missions, and you get special bonus perks and everything. So it's very similar to Stick of Truth, but it's handled differently here. And just in general, the way that they set up things from a, how do I say this, from a layout sort of things is more more modern. It's more of like from a smartphone angle, so you're doing things on your tablet and that's the way you do stuff, which I thought was very interesting. But again, it's such a stark contrast to Stick of Truth. Story-wise, it's about the same length as South Park Stick of Truth, so you're going to be getting the same amount of hours in it. The difficulty is, for the most part, the same. They're not really hard games. I actually beat this game on the hardest difficulty to get that one trophy, where if you play as a black character on the hardest difficulty, I think you're like the best character that ever existed, that ever could walk through South Park, Colorado. So yeah, man, South Park The Stick of Truth, I definitely think if you guys haven't picked up this series, it's worth checking out. They're nice games that you can finish in just a few days. And come on, when they come with limited edition steelbooks like this, I mean, check this out. You've got the Coon, you've got Mysterion, you open this up, you've got the game right here, and as you can see, it came with the Season Pass. It came with the code for South Park The Stick of Truth. I'm not sure if all new run copies come with Stick of Truth or it was just this edition and the digital version, but you are going to be able to purchase South Park The Stick of Truth standalone physically in stores. I think in just a few weeks it's coming out for under $20, so that is friggin' awesome. That's how you do a re-release of an old game. But yeah, man, I'm really excited to see what the DLC holds, because this was a full-on season pass. This is something that they're charging like $20+ for in the store. So I hope it's going to be quality expansions. And when they do come out with that, I'm probably going to get on here and talk about it. All right. Now that I've talked about the 2 games that I finished this month, let me catch my breath for a second. Let me go through some of the games that I have actually been making progress on. These are not games that I have like made it a point to finish this month, but there are what you can call my ongoing title. So as you guys know, the ongoing game that I picked up for the month of January was none other than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And unfortunately, I do not have much to report back on Xenoblade Chronicles 2 since that video. I have put in an extra 15 to 20 hours into the game, but I am still lacking behind a lot of you guys in that department. For whatever reason, I guess because I binged it so much when it came out, I kind of got burnt out of the experience. And when I was jumping from game to game doing this backlog challenge, going back to this was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I could do this, man. If I remember correctly, I am on a boss fight right now with what's his name? The dude with the really crappy English dub voice. Well, that narrows it down, but you guys know what I'm talking about. I think I'm on chapter 9. Yeah, I'm fighting him. And yeah, he kind of kicked my ass a few times, so I'll have to go back and fight him again. But yeah, I've been playing through that. I'm going to make it a point to put more hours into this game, because apparently, according to y'all, the end game gets very friggin' good. In addition to that, 2 games here that I actually got sent review codes for. They are going to be getting videos on the channel very soon. Both Shoe and Darkest Dungeon. In addition to that, I've been playing a metric crap ton of Doom. I also got that sent to me by Bethesda. And this has been my go-to game whenever I take the Nintendo Switch out in public. I just love how I can turn my brain off and kill all of these characters on screen. And I know that's kind of the main point why a lot of people play Doom in the first place, but it is so much fun. Even though you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, it's just the way they structure things. It's like, yeah, I want to keep going here just to see what kind of enemies are going to be in that room and how can I kill them with these crazy weapons. And ooh, the glory kills are oh so satisfying. And there's a lot to Doom. I'll probably talk about that when I finish it, because I'm on the last act of this, so it'll probably be a game that I finish in February. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, those were all the games that I have made substantial progress in. There are a couple of games that I put a couple hours into, such as Digimon Story Hacker's Memory, Binding of Isaac, and Rayman, but I'm not anywhere close to a point where I can actually do full-on impressions videos of them, which is why I'm not going to talk about them. What we are going to talk about are the games that I am going to complete for the month of February, and I'm keeping on with this trend of games that I picked up around the time of my PlayStation 4. We have actually one of the first launch titles for the PlayStation 4, Killzone Shadowfall. Yeah, got this for 20 bucks. Played the campaign and I was like, yeah, I think there's a reason why I stopped playing Killzone campaigns. But we're gonna finish it. And then we have another game which is like a complete 180, the antithesis to Killzone Shadowfall, Wolfenstein: The New Order. I'm currently going through this game right now, and while I would be inclined to just say Wolfenstein: The New Order and that's it, I'm actually going to include the DLC expansion pack as well, Wolfenstein: The New Blood, I believe. I bought that a few years ago for cheap. I think it was like $5 on PSN. So what I'm going to do with this is finish up my playthrough of Wolfenstein: The New Order and then go straight into that DLC expansion. So these are the two games that I have set for myself in the month of February that I need to complete. Like I said, when it comes to choosing games, whatever game you want to pick, just put it on the list. A game that you know you can put a ton of time into and you can honestly complete. Whether that game is 5 hours, 15 hours, or 50 hours, just get it done. I'm not going to be choosing an ongoing game for this month because, as you guys know, I'm still working through Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Digimon Story Hacker's Memory, so those are going to be my more or less de facto titles that are coming out this month. Anyways, from me for now, my name is NGS signing out, and like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace. I have to go get myself some water right now because that's a lot of talking.